In case we have not met, I am Bill McBride, and for the past quarter century, it was my honor and my pleasure to have Bob Zeitz as my father-in-law, my mentor, and most importantly, my friend. When I started working on my remarks for this morning, I had a difficult time deciding on the format. Then it came to me. I'd recently read a book by the famous promoter and producer Jerry Weintraub. And the title of the book, which I thought was very appropriate, is When I Stop Talking, You'll Know I'm Dead. In it, Weintraub recounts memorable events of his life and memories in vignette format. Today I'm going to share with you some of the memories of my friend, mentor, and father-in-law. And they may not be in chronological order, and they may not be 100% correct, but they're my memories. And they're the way I want them. So let me tell you about the first time I met Bob. I'd been dating his daughter Jill for just a few months. He was working for Cobb Theaters at the time. And he was coming down to Florida for a meeting, a regional managers meeting, and I think it was in Fort Myers. So Jill and I drove down from Sarasota to Fort Myers, and she tried to warn me, tried to prepare me, but those of you who are here, you all knew Bob, and you know that probably wasn't enough. So we drive to the airport, the corporate jet pulls in, the ramp comes down. First guy off the plane has a red and white striped jacket on, white pants, styrofoam hat with a band, complete with a cane. Hello, Mr. Zeitz. Let's fast forward about 6 months, more quickly back then. It was Jill's 21st birthday and the night of our engagement. After I asked her to marry me, I had planned a nice, intimate dinner with some friends at a nice restaurant. Picture this, if you will. 21 red roses on the table, champagne, very nice, intimate setting. And in walks Bob with a 3-foot stuffed gorilla, named Maurice the Amorous Ape. Happy birthday, Joe. The other thing that he was famous for was what I call the Bob Zeitz lexicon. In all the years I knew Bob, I never was sure which words were real and which words were self-invented. And, you know, I sat down, I started to think of all the words that I could identify clearly that were invented. And then I realized that half of them were off color. So what I wanted to do is just share a few of them with you. Spraven. Spraven was a term, it was a noun, it could be used for anything. It could be a body part, it could be a car part, just Spraven. Then there were Yinans. And his grandchildren will tell you that the Yinan is the king of the jungle. For those of you who work with him, you'll remember that an expense report was known as a swindle sheet. And then there was pink money. Pink money were movie passes. And they were universally recognized by waitresses, bartenders, and home repair personnel. I'll never forget the time I showed up and he had 37 free channels of cable, all due to pink money. But my favorite term of all times is schmai. Now schmai sounds like a legitimate Yiddish word. Okay. When I asked Bob, I said, what is schmai? He says, well, it means to window shop, to walk around with no money in your pockets. So my favorite story around schmai is that Jill was well into her 30s. And I remember her entering a conversation with another Jewish person and trying to convince them that the word schmai was a legitimate Yiddish word. I'll let the conversation go for about 10 minutes, and then I stepped in and I said, no, it's not. Ishmael mentioned music. And if movies were his living, music was his life. You know that when Stan Kenton plays your going away party, that you're a real jazz fan. When we first met, I was into music and had seen many live shows. Bob expanded my musical universe. It started with driving around listening to the classical jazz recordings. In the 90s, it was the Newport Jazz Festival. We went there many summers with family. In this decade, it was the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. the New Orleans Festival not only had great music, but great food as well. We got there every day at 11 when it opened, and we closed the show at 7 every night. In the later years, we were joined by his grandson, Dylan, and it was absolutely fantastic to have 3 generations there sharing the same experience. My favorite story here is one year we were at the Newport Jazz Festival, and we worked our way up to the side of the stage, and we were hanging by the side of the stage where the musicians were queued up, ready to go for the next act, so we're ready to go on. And next to us, this guy kept looking over at Bob, and finally he says, "Hey, aren't you Bobby Zeitz?" And this was an old-time jazz musician who had recognized him from the music scene. I was impressed. Food. Ishmael mentioned it, but food was a close second as a favorite interest to Bob. And his favorite food was garbage. At home, it was hot dogs, linguiça, and chorizo. On the road, it was Katz's, the stage, the Carnegie, 2nd Avenue, and in a pinch, Jason's or 2J's. Almost anything but Taco Bell.
Not my cup of tea.
My son Dylan, when he was younger, liked to go fishing, and he often went fishing with his other grandfather. Not to be outdone, Bob says, "You like fishing? I'll take you fishing." Dylan says, "Really?" He goes, "Sure, I'll take you fishing. We'll go deli fishing. You'll catch some gefilte, some herring, and maybe if you're lucky, some locks." Friendship. Bob taught me the absolute importance of friendship. He had many lifelong friends, many of whom went through the business. Bill, Bob, and John, you're here today as a testimonial to his friendship. I don't have a good story here, but when we gather afterwards, I'm looking forward to hearing at least one good Bob story from each of you. Of all the things that Bob Zeitz taught me, he taught me family was the most important. And if you look at his life, no question, family was first. 47 years with Joyce, 5 children that he loved. Dylan, Max, Alyssa, Hannah, and Jacob, the grandchildren that he loved, cherished, spoiled, and consistently taught inappropriate things. He often told me that the best times of his life were spent not at Legion Field or the music festival, but in Boston, Cincinnati, and Jackson, Mississippi, the places where his grandchildren and their parents lived. When he learned that Jill and I were divorcing, he called me up and said, "McBride, I'd walk on my knees to Cincinnati if I thought it would help." And I said, "I know you would." I loved him and he loved me like a son. For that I will be forever grateful. I was blessed to have him in my life for 25 years. I look forward to sharing more with you and hearing your stories of Bob today as we gather after the service. Use this day to live